One person asking very good question. The question is, what is the difference between fair value through OCI without recycling and fair value through OCI without recycling? I think this one is also very like the things that I should mention but I forget. Equity instruments, I told you previously that if it classified as fair value through OCI, when it's disposed it out, realized gain will not has any impact to the net income, right? It's different from debt instruments. For example, like you have investment in government bond, you have investment in state enterprise bond, and you don't want the P&L to volatile. The business model is kind of like hold to collect and sell, which is equivalent currently under Thai accounting standard is available for sales. I think this one, if you classify it as fair value through OCI, every accounting period, you measure the fair value and the difference between two periods. The change in fair value will go to OCI, the line after net income. With recycling, meaning that for debt instrument, which is classified as fair value to OCI, when you dispose or when you sell it out, realized gain or realized loss will go to net income. Realized gain or loss when you dispose will have the impact to net income. Earning per share will be impacted by realized gain. So it's different between debt and equity. We have already finished the liability side, asset side. So now we move to the financial liabilities. Even talking about the liabilities of the company, we are now talking about the accounts payable, borrowing from financial institution, borrowing from parents companies. That kind of financial liabilities. Most of them are presented as amortized cost, all right? But under IFRS 9, actually there are two choices. I think 99% of the financial liabilities would be classified as amortized cost, but it can be designated at fair value as well. For example, if I'm the financial institution, I have the structure notes, I issue the structure notes to the insurance companies. I might not want to like doing the bifurcation, calculating the derivatives, it's very difficult for me. In terms of like management or in terms of the treasury management, I just monitor the performance of these structure notes as the fair value. So I don't want to do the amortized cost. It's stupid. It's not relevant to what I'm doing so far. I monitor it as the fair value. So I have the choice to measure the certain financial liabilities at fair value. Seems logical, right? Because the management monitors the financial liabilities at fair value, so I want to measure it at fair value. IFRS 9 is very kind. They said, if you want, okay, you can do. But the difficulties to select the financial liabilities and measure at fair value is the company needs to be able to calculate their own credit risk. Need to calculate their own credit risk and record the own credit risk to other comprehensive income, which is under the net income. For example, on day one, I issue the structure notes. The cash that I receive from this structure notes is 100. All right. 31st December 2018. Again, I calculate the fair value of this structure notes, and it is equivalent to 110. This difference of 10, I need to find what is the impact of this 10. How much is the impact of my own credit risk? The part of my own credit risk need to be recorded at other comprehensive income. For example, I have own credit risk equivalent to 1 baht. I calculate and represent 1 baht to the line after net income. The rest 9 baht go to P&L. How do you feel? Easy? Easy ไหม? ไม่ easy. Very difficult. I have already presented this to the financial institution. The first question that they asked me, how I quantify my own credit risk. You think about, let's say that you invest in bond, which I'm the issuer, all right? Let's say I issue the bond, you guys just invest in my bonds. Today I'm the partner of PwC, right? Let's say on Monday, I just quit from PwC. Or maybe like, for example, PwC lay me off, since you go out of PwC. On day one, today you invest in my bonds, 100. What gonna impact to my value of the bond on Monday after PwC fire me? Can you sell it out at 100? Let's say other things being constant, except I was kicked out from PwC. So the price of the bond will reduce significantly, right? Because of what? My credit risk, right? So as an investor, you're gonna have loss. How about my performance? Let's say that on the day that I issue my own bond, I classify it as fair value through P&L. You lost, who gonna gain? I gain, right? I have a gain, even though my performance is poorer. Is it true? Should it be present as profit and loss or not? This is the logic why the standards would like to measure my own credit risk and put it after the net profit. Because they don't want my performance to be better. They don't want my earning per share to improve because of my own credit risk, which is poorer. All right? You gain, I lost because of my own credit risk poor. So in terms of analysis, all right, if you just look through my financial performance and you just realize that, hey, I have a gain in OCI. What can you imply? If I decide to classify my investment, my bond as fair value through OCI, at fair value through P&L, and I have plus or gain in the other comprehensive income, you are the financial analyst. How can you interpret my performance? What happened to me? My own credit risk has a gain, meaning my performance or my credit risk is increased, right? No. Okay, let me explain again. Same example. Today is Saturday. I issued a bond, 100. To everyone in this room, you invest in my bond. Everyone pay me 100 baht. All right. On Monday, PwC fire me. Since you go out of the PwC. So can I be able to pay you back 100 baht? No, right? Can you sell it out to the others? Sell it to Kun Thanyala at 100 baht? Will she buy you? Why? Because of my credit risk, right? So you have, if you mark to the market of this investment in bond on Monday, you're gonna have loss, right? Now I'm talking about my own balance sheet, all right? My own balance sheet on day one, I have cash against liabilities equal to everyone's times 100. กี่คน 20, let's say. 20 times 100, I got 2,000 baht. After I was fired on Monday, you said the price gonna reduce from 100, let's say 90. You have loss on your balance sheet and P&L. Should I have gain or loss? Gain, right? I'm gonna have gain from my credit risk if I mark to the market of my own bond. owned liabilities. That's why the standard said, if you would like to measure your financial liabilities at fair value, you need to be able to calculate your own credit risk and mark it through the OCI. So my gain will goes to the line under net profit. You invest 100. On Monday, the fair value say 90. You have lost 10 from my credit risk. But on my balance sheet, today I have 100. On Monday, I'm gonna have to mark to market again. Liabilities 100 on day one, and later on it reduced to 90. So it means that I have gain from these liabilities. I got money 100, but fair value changed to 90. It seems like I have gain, right? This gain 10 will go to other comprehensive income. So earning per share will not have any impact from my own credit risk. So the thing is, the difficulty is how I measure my own credit risk. That's the first question that most of the companies or financial institutions which would like to measure the financial liabilities at fair value. The second question, if you as an analyst, you read my financial performance and you see that, hey, sincerely, you mark gain as your own credit risk on the other comprehensive income. So it implies that my credit risk is poorer from prior period. So you have gain. All right? That's why financial institutions are reluctant to classify the financial liabilities at fair value through P&L as an option being identified or allowed by the IFRS. So this one is the decision tree for the financial liabilities. I think if you close your eyes and you think about the normal companies, most of the financial liabilities would be presented at amortized cost, except for the insurance companies or certain financial institutions that issue the structure notes, or the companies, the public companies that issue kind of like convertible bond. So that kind of structured products might needs to be changed in terms of accounting record. All right. So the first question that you have the financial liabilities, you need to ask whether is it for trading. When I teach the course of IFRS, everyone keeps asking me, can you just give me the example of financial liabilities that for trading? Can you think of anything? Keep on. Financial liabilities that can be classified as held for trading. Bonds. Let me give you an example. Okay.
Like for example, short-term money market?
Short-term money market, no. No. Let me give you the example. Let's say that we are on Friday, and you think that the price of PTT, which is listed in the stock exchange, would increase on Monday. What are you going to do? We are on Friday. Today is Friday. And you expect that on Monday, the price of PTT would increase. What are you going to do? Buy. So if you buy the PTT stock, you're going to have asset as investment in equities on balance sheet, right? Let's say that again, we're on Friday. And you expect that on Monday, the price of PTT would reduce. What are you going to do? How can you sell? You need to borrow the stock, right? Borrow from whom? Brokers. Yeah. You can borrow the stock from brokers on Friday and sell it on Monday because the price increased, and you return the cash to the broker. So on Friday, if you need to issue the balance sheet, you're gonna have liabilities, right? Because you borrow stock from the brokers. And this borrow stock from the brokers is for trading because you're gonna make the profit on day one. So this kind of financial liabilities needs to measure at fair value. Under financial term, we call it as short sale. Borrow the stock and make profit. On Friday, you have the liabilities because you borrow the stock from brokers. So on balance sheet, at the end of the day, you have the financial liabilities held for trading. And on Monday, you close the position. You sell the stock that you borrow and you return the cash to the broker. If you don't do the short sale, the second question is that, are you going to designate at the fair value? If yes, you need to be able to calculate your own credit risk, and changing your own credit risk goes to other comprehensive income. This one is the things under net profit. The rest of change in fair value will go to profit and loss. If not, you need to think about the embedded derivative. This one I don't want to explain in detail. It's very difficult. All right. And if it is like needs to understand the structure of the products, need to understand the embedded derivative, whether it exists or not, understand the credit or the risks of embedded derivatives, whether it needs to bifurcate or not bifurcate kind of things. It's gonna impact significantly again to the companies, because actually this one is from IAS 39. For the local financial institution like the bank, even though we haven't adopted the IAS 39 yet, but the Bank of Thailand issued the guideline forcing every bank to comply with the guideline, and the guideline requests the bank to do the bifurcation or to do the separating embedded derivatives already. So if the IFRS 9 being adopted, no impact on the financial liabilities for the financial institution, because they are very keen on the separating embedded derivatives already, because there is a guideline from the regulators. And go to the part which I keep asking or keep talking about the effective interest rate. For the financial asset, which you need to calculate the effective interest rate or IRR to measure it as amortized cost, is for the debt instruments which is classified as amortized cost, or debt instrument which is classified as fair value to OCI. This one is a copy from standard. Actually, what is effective interest rate? As I told you previously, is resemble to IRR. For example, in this case, the bank lends out 1,000 to the borrower at the beginning of the year, and it is 1, 2, 3. It is 3-year loans, and the borrower needs to pay back to the to the bank 1,200. So you need to calculate the IRR. The difference between the cash received by the financial institution onto 0x3 is 200. Under Thai accounting standard, current one, we're gonna use 200 divided by 3. First year, we're gonna recognize interest rate by 200 divided by 3, 200 divided by 3, 200 divided by 3, if it is the loan. But under IFRS, I think more difficulty is that we need to calculate effective interest rate or IRR. And we're gonna recognize the interest rate by using the IRR times with the outstanding loan. Actually, you don't have to look into the detail, but the key highlight that I would like to show you is that the interest rate or interest income that we're gonna recognize every year is gonna be different. 63, 67, 71. While current accounting standard, we're gonna record every year equally, which is 200 divided by 3. That's why there is a gap in terms of current accounting standard and IFRS. This is the easiest example, but in reality, what's going to impact is that when most of the financial institution issue the loans to customer, we're going to request for fee, for example, upfront fee. Or sometimes they need to pay commission to the bank staff in order to recommend the customers to the bank. So that there are fee, relevance fee and cost that the bank has. Currently, they book it as income on day one. Under IFRS, they need to amortize. So in terms of interest income, it's gonna reduce by the portion of fee. Currently, for example, we have upfront fee. Loan 1,000 baht. Let's say we have upfront fee 5 baht. Currently, we book 5 baht as a fee income. 5 baht is a fee income on day one. Under IFRS, this 5 needs to be part of interest income, so it needs to be amortized and book it as interest income. So what's going to impact is that if we look through the line fee income, it's going to be reduced significantly, right? Because there is no fee anymore from the upfront fee. And the interest income would be reduced slightly throughout the life of the loan. So if you analyze in terms of the NIM or net interest margin, the ratio would differ from prior years. Section 4 is impairment. As I told you, the equity instruments, there is no impairment at all. Derivatives book at fair value to profit and loss, so there is no consideration about the impairment. So most of the things that we need to think about the impairment would be asset, which is classified, debt instrument, which is classified as amortized cost, debt instruments that is classified as fair value to OCI. For example, account receivable, investment in bond, loan to companies if you are the financial institution, loan to customers, loan to parent company, loan to subsidiaries, that kind of thing. Loan commitment. Loan commitment is kind of like unused credit line, unused OD, unused credit card, financial guarantees, and also the lease which is the asset. Those kind of things needs to be calculated the impairment under IFRS 9. So let me explain to you this page. So all the assets on the balance sheet, for example, we talk about the loan to customers. There are 3 buckets that we need to put the loan into bucket. The first bucket is 12-month expected credit loss. The second bucket is lifetime expected credit loss. And the last bucket is lifetime, let me put it, actually the word is the same. Let's say this is a stage 1, this one is stage 2, and the last one is stage 3. All right. We need to classify each individual loan on the balance sheet to sit in each bucket on the time period that we issue the financial statements, because each bucket or each stage have the way record the credit loss or have the way they calculate the numbers differently. The first bucket is good loan. For example, the bank issue the loan on day 1 to customers, and it's very good loan, good company. They're gonna sit on stage 1. If we sit on the stage 1, when we look through probability of default of that loan, we're gonna look through only 12 months. Good loan, we're gonna look through PD or probability of default or chance of default only 12 months. But if there is an incident, significant increase in credit risk, it's gonna move from stage 1 or bucket 1 to stage 2 or bucket 2. Incidence from moving is significant increase in credit risk. So what's gonna impact is that when we look through the probability of default, instead of looking only 12 months, we're gonna look through the lifetime of the loan. For example, I'm the housing loan, I'm a good company. I sincerely again borrow housing from the financial institution. On day 1, I borrow the bank, for sure. They will think that, okay, I'm a good customers. So what they're gonna set up the PD, probability of default for me, they're gonna look only 12 months. But let's say that I was fired by PwC. I might be able to, find a new occupations. So I haven't default to the financial institution yet because I still have cash on hand. I still have other cash flow on my saving account, so I can have cash to, continue paying my liabilities. But since I was fired by PwC, so it might imply that, okay, I'm gonna have significant increase in credit risk. So the bank is going to move my position from here to here, stage 2. So the impact is that instead of looking my probability of default for 12 months, it's gonna increase for lifetime of my liabilities. For example, my housing loan is 20 years. They're gonna look through the probability of default for 20 years. The impact is that if we expand the period of looking to the probability of default, you think that PD gonna increase or decrease? It should increase, right? Talking about the normal life, probability of default is probability that you might fail. For example, if I just walk from here to the restroom, it's very short route, right? Chance of falling is very small, very minimum. But if I just would like to walk from here to Silom complex, it's gonna be longer route, right? So chance of my falling should increase because of the route. Same as my housing loan. Same as my status. If I look through the probability of default for 12 months, it should be less than the probability of default by expected life of the loan. That's why the bank also needs to think about what is the criteria for insignificant increase in credit risk. And the last stage is the default or is the incur loss, is the very bad loan, like the restructured loan, should be sit in the last stage. Probability of default would be the lifetime as well. So if we look through the PD of this bucket are the same, but the way we recognize income would be different between bucket 2 and bucket 3. All right. In terms of PD, LGD, good loan, 12 months, significant increase in credit risk, equal lifetime. Incur loss, meaning that you have default more than 90 days. You might do bankruptcy already, this one. This bucket is lifetime. How we recognize the interest income. For example, we have 100, my housing loan is 100 baht. My PD of the provision, let's say 10 baht. For the bucket 1, how we recognize the interest income. My effective interest rate will calculate from the amount 100. Loan 100, provision 10 baht, net is 90. Bucket 1, how we recognize the interest income. Let's say my IRR is 10%. 10% rule times or recognized from 100. Bucket 2 is the same. Let's say that my loan is 100, but since I have significant increase in credit risk, provision should increase. Say it increased to 30. So my net provision is 100, minus 30 equivalent to 70. So interest income would recognize from 100 from the stage 2 or bucket 2. Bucket 3. This one I have already been very bad customers already. I have default more than 90 days. I might bankruptcy. I have lost already. The bank has already lost already. So let's say loan 100. The provision increased from 30 to 70. 100 minus provision 70. Net book value is equal to 30. So how we recognize income, we recognize from 30. IRR 10% will times with 30, not 100 like the first and second bucket. So if you fell into the third bucket, even though PD is lifetime as the second bucket, but how you recognize the income would reduce significantly. Because interest income would recognize from the net balance, loan minus provision. Recognize from the net balance of the financial asset. This is very new to the bank. It's very new to everyone. I told you the reason that I said it's very difficult is because we have to think about the housing loan, let's say 20 years. When we think about significant increase in credit risk, you might wonder, what do you mean by significant increase in credit risk? Meaning that you need to be able to compare on the risk you identify at day one. So you need to be able to track every single loan throughout the period back to day one that they initial the loan. And you need to be able to track the movement from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 1 to stage 3, say 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 3 to 1. You need to be able to reconcile the movement of every single loan. Because you need to be disclosed that movement on the notes to financial statements. How many loan customers on the balance sheet of, say, Bangkok Bank? So you will understand why they said it's very difficult for the bank to implement, especially in the area of IFRS 9, in the area of impairment. Because I just think about PD, probability of default, but how can you get that PD? Because every single loan, every single portfolio have their own group of, have their own character. You need to be able to separate, every single customers and need to calculate probability of default of each single customer. How? You need the information in the past. You need to forecast the future and reflect that to the numbers in order to calculate the provision, which is very, very difficult. This one is the criteria that I'm talking about, the significant increase in credit risk. These are the examples. You can look through in detail later on. The last one is moving from stage 2 to 3. This one is like, I told you what they are very bad already, like bankruptcy, breach of the contract, financial difficulties, this kind of examples. So financial institution should be able to put like the criteria and should be able to justify systematically each individual loan to be able to move between stages. If they have, for example, like 2 million retail loan, they need to be able to identify status of each single loan. How can they say this loan is moved from like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3? What are the criteria? You said you have your own credit card, right? My question is, after you apply the credit card, has the bank asked you any update on your payroll? Like the receipt, the salary receipt? Have they ever asked you that question again? No, right? But they keep increasing the limit. So how can they measure significant increase in credit risk from you? Because they haven't contacted you at all after they grant you the credit card limit. Or other example, you borrow housing loan from the bank from day one. Has the bank ever asked you the updated salary receipt? No. If you have the personal loan with the bank, again, they ask you information on day one. But the rest, they haven't updated you anything, any information from you. How can they measure the staging? How can the bank measure the status of your credit risk as of the accounting period? The only thing that they can do is just only collection. That's only the statistic number. So if they just look only statistic number, come back again to the seasonality of Thai behavior. We're gonna often default the loan payment in April and May, right? So the provision would be volatile because there is no other information that the bank has except for the default. So they need to doing the adjustment to stabilize the provision. If not, quarter by quarter, it's gonna be very nightmare. Because same customer, but the behavior hasn't been changed at all. But just only point of time that is different. Management overlay is required. Expected credit loss. Actually, the model is very easy. It's from PD, probability of default, times with exposure of default, times with loss given default. Probability of default is chance of default throughout, whether if you are in stage 1 is 12 months, stage 2 and 3 is lifetime. So chance, probability of default, exposure of default, exposure at default. You need to recognize or recall that it's not just only loan on balance sheet, financial guarantee, undrawn commitment. It's gonna be part of EAD as well. But you don't have to be worried that, oh, let's say that I have, for example, I got 3 million undrawn credit card limit that I have. It doesn't mean that the bank needs to put my 3 million as an EAD. They also need to calculate what are the probability that I gonna draw my 3 million. And use that probability of drawing times with the limit that I have to be part of EAD. So it will not be that significant huge based on the limit that the bank issue or provide to the customers. Then it's the formula to reduce the impact as well. LGD is the loss, experience loss in the past from each individual portfolio to estimate and to forecast the future. When they got each single information, they just count 3 factors together and they will got the provision. Seems like very easy, but in reality it takes 8 months, 20 people to quantify 7 models for the bank. Because in reality you need to collect the data more than 36 point of time. And you think that the bank has very good quality of data? That's the difficulty because we need to cleansing the data. We need to look through and use the logic to check whether the historical of data is correct or not before we calculate. Because model is very easy, but how can you retrieve the data and do the adjustment is more difficult. Next would be the hedge accounting. I think in reality it's very common to you guys because if we borrow cash from the bank or if we invest in the bonds in foreign countries and our functional currency or the current currency that we manage is the Thai baht, sometimes you create the financial risk of the firm and you might consider having the derivatives to hedge the financial risk. Alright, if you are the financial specialist, you might think that, okay, these two guys are very easy, but in reality or in accounting, if you don't apply the hedge accounting, we're gonna have very fluctuation in profit and loss. For example, the most simplified example, when you borrow the cash from bank, all right, has any of you are the credit analyst มีใครปล่อยสินเชื่อแบงค์ไหมคะwhat wholesale or retail wholesale why do you normally request the borrower to ask to borrow the bank in floating rate
our concept is floating from the deposit, saving deposit.
So you always said if the customer would like to borrow the bank with floating rate, the rate would be lower than borrowing in fixed. Normally, I mean, as I always have a discussion with the bank and ask this question: why do you keep offering floating US dollar loans to customers, even though the customers' functional currency or day-to-day business is in baht, and they want something fixed? But you always offer US dollar floating rate, LIBOR. Tell me the reason. And they will say, because my cost of business is floating. So if I offer you with the floating rate, the cost of fund is matched with the issue one, and the interest rate would be low. This is the logic. So what happens to the customer is that, don't worry, I'm gonna sell you interest rate swap. You want Thai baht? You want fixed? Fine. Buy another derivatives. It's gonna change you from floating US dollar smoothly to Thai baht fixed. Fine. In terms of the risk management, fine. Everything is smooth. But what's impact to the financial statement is that your borrowing normally is amortized cost. Amortized cost meaning that you recognize at book interest expense at book. You don't fair value your borrowing. But the thing is, you fair value the derivatives, and the change in fair value would impact to the profit and loss. This one is stabilized, but derivatives is very volatile. The difficulty is that in terms of cash flow, in terms of risk management is close, but in terms of P&L, it's very volatile. And the difficulty is that how can the management explain this impact to the investor? Let's say that we have loss here. The question would be, why do you create loss to the firm? If you don't do the interest rate swap, there is no loss. And they will say, because I manage the risk, but the risk is here. I see you the loss already. That's why hedge accounting comes.
But I think that that there is that cash flow hedge and fair value hedge. The fair value hedge you match with the hedge item which profit and loss will go to P&L. The fair value hedge the profit and loss from the derivative from fair value hedge will go to P&L is matched. But if it's the cash flow hedge, like swap from float to fixed, and this one they will go to OCI and will match with OCI because I'm doing it and I think it's already correct.
Yeah. That's why I tell you that I try to explain that without doing hedge, this one is amortized cost, this one is fair value through P&L, it's going to be volatile. But if you're doing hedge accounting, this issue would be solved by what she explained to me. This page. If it is the fair value hedge, you calculate the fair value of hedge item. You calculate the fair value of derivatives. You measure both hedge item and hedging instruments. Change in fair value. Let's say that you borrow in fixed and you swap from fixed to float. You have gain on borrowing in terms of interest rate. You must have loss on derivatives. So if we classify it as fair value hedge, change in fair value will go directly to P&L, so it is offset. I will show you in the next page in detail so that you understand the impact more. But if it is the cash flow hedge, the derivatives would be marked to other comprehensive income, which is below the net income line. So the P&L would not be volatile. It will park to kind of retained earning. So P&L would not be volatile as well. If it is net investment hedge, it's kind of like you invest in foreign countries, and when you do the consolidate, the P&L would be volatile. The OCI would be volatile. So you might decide to buy like the forward to hedge. This one is the accounting hedge. So it's gonna pass derivative to OCI. What is the fair value hedge? I think this is the starting point. What is the fair value hedge? Fair value hedge. Fair value hedge, how can I explain? Okay. Let's say that I buy lotto. I buy the lottery. Okay. And today I got the winning prize. I got 3 billion baht. I need to use this 3 million baht to invest in something. I don't want it to hold it as cash. I might invest it in a bond. Let's say 5 years bond with the interest rate fixed at 5%. So I just buy the bond today. 5-year bonds with a fixed interest rate, 5%. All right? On Monday, the Bank of Thailand just announced that I want to increase the repo rate or the reference rate. The regulators announced the increase in interest rate. So what's gonna happen to my investment? Let's say I sell it to you. Will you buy me 3 million baht? Why?
Because
Why
the
not?
interest rate is higher now.
Huh?
Because the repo rate is higher now, so the opportunity cost is higher.
Yeah. Because the market rate increased already. I bought it today. The interest rate is lower. So the market price of the bond should reduce. So if I buy the swap to hedge the fixed rate loan or fixed rate bond, it's gonna be the fair value hedge. Because what I'm worried is the fair value of the bond would increase or decrease. Okay? Most of the accountants cannot understand we are very difficult to understand the logic. Sometimes we just memorize that fixed to float is fair value, float to fixed is cash flow. Because I mean, sometimes it's very complex and very difficult to understand the logic. So when fixed to float is fair value, fine. Or if I buy the commodity, like petrol on my balance sheet, and I might feel that okay, the petrol would increase or decrease depends on the petrol price. I might decide to buy the future of the petrol to manage the volatility of the price on my balance sheet. This kind of thing is the fair value hedge, because you are afraid of the volatilities of the fair value. This case, I am the company A. I issue 10-year bond fixed rate 5% for 3 years. Since I'm worried that my fair value of the bond would reduce, so I bought the hedging instruments, which is interest rate swap. Notional amount is equivalent to the hedge item, which is 10 US. And my swap is that I'm gonna receive 3% and pay 3-month LIBOR for 3 years. Alright, so my risk to be hedged is fair value. And let's say that we just realize that okay, the LIBOR is 4%. Put it as a chart. I am the company A. So the fixed interest rate is 5% it tastes like 3% is the risk-free and 2% is my credit premium. So it's kind of separate into two, which is 3 to 2%. So I just do like the hedge accounting against the swap counterparty. I manage the risk because I would like to pay the float. So I say, hey, swap counterparty, you pay me the fixed interest rate to subsidize this one, and I'm going to pay you the LIBOR. All right. And let's say that on the date that we designate the LIBOR is 4%. All right. So the net impact, swap counterparty pay me 3, and I need to pay LIBOR at 4%. So the net impact is 1%. I just company A pay to swap counterparty. When we doing the hedge accounting, what happened is that the interest expense on the note is 5%. From here, 5%. Interest payment under swap is 1%. Here, we receive fixed 3, I pay you LIBOR, which is 4. So at the net between 3 and 4, I just pay you the net, which is 1. So interest expense in the profit and loss would be the floating 4 plus 2, right? So it's going to be turned from fixed to float already in the P&L. Since it is the fair value hedge, the rule is that you mark to the market of the hedge item, and at the same time you mark to the market of hedging instruments. So the hedge item, which is the debt, you calculate the fair value is equivalent to 8, and you mark to the market of interest rate swap, which is lost, 8.5. So in the P&L, it would reduce by 0.5. Without doing hedge, we don't have this line. So the P&L would be volatile by 8.5, which is lost. But here we do the fair value hedge. We mark to the market both hedge item and hedging instruments. So the impact in the P&L is only 0.5. So very cool. The risk is managed. Financial statement is very good. Happy. Okay. This one is hedging from fixed interest rate to floating. It's called fair value hedge. Fair value hedge, you quantify or you book both fair value of hedge item and hedging instruments. Next is cash flow hedge. Cash flow hedge. Normally, let's say I borrow housing loan from the bank, and the bank again quote me floating rate loan. Today I would like to buy the house, so I borrow the bank, let's say 10 million baht, and interest rate is MLR. Let's say on Monday again, the bank which I borrow announced the increase in terms of the MLR rate. What happened? Today I borrow 10 million baht to buy a house. The interest rate that I borrow from the bank is minimum lending rate, which is floating rate. Alright? And on Monday, the bank increased the interest rate, announced that they're going to increase the MLR rate. What happens to me? I need to pay the interest rate increasingly because the bank requests more interest rate from me, right? So what I'm worried is my cash flow, because I need to pay more from increase of the floating rate. This one is cash flow hedge because it is the floating. Asset or liability which is float, it means that the cash flow that you need to pay or receive would be volatile. But the fair value is stable because it is adjusted by the interest that you pay already. So this one is a cash flow hedge. In this case, let's say you issue 10-year variable rate, LIBOR, plus 2%. LIBOR is the fixed rate, plus 2% is the credit spread or credit risk of you. So to manage the variable, you consider to do the swap, changing the LIBOR to fixed rate. Fixed rate here is 5%. Risk being hedged is cash flow hedge. Let's say that the LIBOR that you need to pay is 6%. Look into the picture. Each year you pay LIBOR, which is 6%, plus 2, which is the credit spread, equivalent to 8%. And you do the hedge, you do the swap with the counterparty. So each year you pay LIBOR. Sorry, you pay fixed 5% to the swap counterparties, and swap counterparties pay you the LIBOR, which is 6%. So the net impact is that swap counterparty pay you 1%. Intention of cash flow hedge is that you hedge from float to fixed. So you would like to manage to replace this LIBOR with 5% plus 2%, which is the credit spread or credit risk premium. So interest expense in the P&L gonna present as 7, the fixed rate that you want, because 8 is from LIBOR plus 2, which is 8, and from the swap you're gonna receive 1%. So in total, the net effect of interest expense in the profit and loss gonna change to fixed. Doing the hedge as the cash flow hedge is different from fair value, because the hedging instruments, which is derivatives, gonna mark to the other comprehensive income, which is not P&L. It's gonna move from P&L to line after net income, which is kind of retained earning. Without doing a hedge, again, 8.5 gonna be gain on the profit and loss. Earning per share gonna be volatile by 8.5. But since you do the hedge, cash flow hedge, so this 8.5 will go to part called other comprehensive income. So earning per share will not be volatile by 8.5. Very good. Superb. But in reality, the difficult thing is that who's gonna help you calculate this 8.5? Who is going to help you calculate this 8? And accounting is super difficult and super complex. This one or this example that I've given you is the very standardized and easiest example to illustrate very good or fortunate situation. But in reality, it's very difficult to find the 8 and 8.5, because in reality, the hedge item and hedging instrument sometimes it is not effectively matched to equivalent to 0, because there is a method of doing the zero curve discount, etc., etc. If we are the companies, the difficulty is that how can we get the curve to discount the cash flow? And if we are the bank or the financial institution, the difficulty is that we don't just do hedge only 1 or 2 transactions, we do more than 100 transactions. So they need a system to quantify the numbers. If not, they cannot book. And in terms of the market, it's very volatile. It might not 100% match or 100% effective, as we mentioned here. So sometimes, even though we do the hedge accounting, but in terms of the impact to P&L, it's not perfectly matched as we think of. All right. Section 6, disclosure. These are the new financial statements line items that you're gonna see on the asset side. For example, they're gonna classify the asset to trading asset, financial designated at fair value, hedging derivatives. These kind of things are the new financial statement line item that you're gonna see in the balance sheet. Bank of Thailand, SEC, try to issue the template or revised template on the balance sheet and P&L for banking, for securities companies, for credit from CA, all right? But there is no updated template for the listed companies. So they're gonna present as of current balance sheet add on with this kind of line item to the balance sheet. And the impact, for example, trading asset is gonna be volatile by changing the classification. Financial asset designated at fair value if they have more volatile. Hedging derivative again more volatile. Trading liability, I think this one has a few transactions. The one that I saw trading short sales with the brokers or with the securities companies. Normally they are like the retail customers. I rarely see the companies trade or doing the trading liabilities because most kind of things are like the betting, like gambling more than just really the investors. So I think most of the companies, even though they want to do the trading liabilities, but they might need to be stopped due to the risk management or the governance that do not allow them to do the trading liabilities. So I think this one is very rare in Thai market, especially for the listed companies. The profit and loss, I think these are the new financial statements liabilities from gain loss from financial instruments at fair value to P&L, gain loss from hedge accounting, and also expected credit loss. This is the most difficult part that I need to explain to non-accounting people because this one is kind of line or like the group after net income. And we need to classify it into two kinds. The one that is gonna, reclassify to profit and loss, meaning that when they sell the transaction or the balance out, realized gain will go to P&L. This group is for debt instruments, net gain loss. This one is from the mark to market, and when they realize, they're gonna go to P&L. All right, and the last part is not go to P&L. This kind is just mark to the market of the equity. Very detailed, skip it. Leave it to the accounting people. This one is for the first time adoption on January 2019. I think the financial statement of the public entities would be very huge, especially the financial institution. For example, for the first time adoption in the year 2019, we're gonna apply the previous accounting standard. So in terms of the accounting policy, we need to keep prior year accounting policy and also update with the revised accounting policy for the IFRS 9. Balance sheet or financial position, you need to reconcile on 1st of January 2019 what is the original classification, and you need to show the classification before and after implementing IFRS 9. And you need to show the impact, the carrying amount originally and the revised under IFRS 9. So the bank or the company needs to be able to match the difference in terms of classification and the amount of both financial assets and financial liabilities. This one is the reconciliation of the allowance from old to new. Movement line by line, increase, decrease due to increase or decrease due to changing the classification or changing due to the new method of provision impact the numbers. In Thai we call Nan Chang. And the last, I think this one is the last page to reconcile. As I told you that the loan has 3 kinds, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And the last kind is when the bank files bad loan to the company, we're gonna call it as purchase originated credit impact. So they need to be able to reconcile the allowance from day 1 until 31st December 2000 year that they wanna. This one needs to happen every single year. This note is every single year. Needs to be able to classify change in estimation due to the lifetime expected credit loss due to changing the model, changing the PD, LGD, EAD, changing loan to stage 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 3. Need to be able to reconcile every single loan. and it cannot be done by hand. It needs to be done by system. And even for like the companies only, which is not financial institution, again, it also needs to be reconciled. Receivable needs to be reconciled as well. Alright? I think I have explained you like the impact and difficulty of the standard. The last page is about the challenges. Actually, if we look through, there are 3 things that we need to consider: process, system, and people. Because by changing, for example, business model, SPPI testing, needs to calculate the fair value, do the hedge accounting, etc., etc. Those kind of things impact the process of doing work and also impact the way we look through the budget, impact the ratio, the DE ratio, net income ratio, EBITDA ratio, even EBITDA ratio, because some would increase the interest, some would reduce from interest, for example. So the ratio, the budgeting process, everything gonna be changed. That's why I keep like instructing the FSA 9 to not just only the accounting, but I also need to instruct to the management. Because the way they be able to explain to the public is different, and also the performance that they measure is gonna be different as well. Again, system. How we gonna deal with effective interest rate impairment or hedge accounting? Do we have any gap in terms of the data? We still have time. Let me put one example. This one is very ridiculous question that I was asked by one bank. Because when we're talking about the interest rate in the contract, normally it's gonna be different from the effective interest rate, right? Because the contract haven't present like the prepayment fee, upfront fee, whatsoever fee that you try to push the customer to pay the bank upfront to reduce the interest rate that present in the contract. Because nature of the people, they haven't consider about the upfront fee that they pay normally when they compare the cash that they need to pay for each bank in terms of interest rate. They just only compare the rate without thinking about the prepayment or the upfront fee that they need to pay to the bank. So sometimes the customer decide to lend from the bank incorrectly because they haven't considered the upfront fee, just compare only the rate. So when they calculate the effective interest rate, normally they're gonna different from the contractual rate. So one bank just asked me, what if the company or the customer asks for confirmation about the interest rate? Which rate that we need to tell the customer? So I just laughed. I said, if you just inform the customer the effective interest rate, who's gonna understand you? So what they need to answer the customer would be the contractual rate. If the customer default, not paying back even interest or loan to the bank, they need to sue, right? In the court case, which rate that they're gonna sue the customer? It's gonna be contractual rate. So it means that the bank needs to keep two rates with the same customer. Data, more space, more detail, more error. So I think this kind of thing, gonna create again data gap. And when you report to the customer, you need to know which sales you need to inform. You might inform the customer incorrectly if you misunderstand between effective interest rate and contractual rate. The issue is that we're not dealing with the people, 10 people. We are now talking about dealing with 1,000 people or more than 1,000 people. Everyone needs to understand the impact. If not, they're going to answer the customer incorrectly. Yeah, one stupid question may create the issue to the bank. The last is the people. We need to train people to understand. We need to think about the governance. Need to think about the policy, process, procedures. Need to get approval, and people need to understand change. Any question?